Water. We need it to live, we need it to wash, we need it to flush away waste. We need it to transport heavy cargoes over vast distances. Water, God's gift. Consumers have very little control over this life essential. We'll be looking at three areas affecting the lives of millions. Water charges.
My name is Fred Hunt. I was on the Seeking Tenants Committee. I've been asked about water meters. They're a good thing. My new flat is water meters, and I'm paying about maybe half the money I used to pay in the old block. When we wrote to the water company, they turned around and they said that the flat was allocated for 6 people. So we were paying the water bill for 6 people. Now I'm just paying the water bill for 1 person. You know, so it's really water meters are a good idea.
My name is Zach Mutton. I'm living at the moment in Victoria Settlements. And I used to live in the 3 blocks of towers further along Netherfield Road. Well, my water bill then was somewhere in the region of £29 a month, over 10 months, 290. And I find a difference with a meter installed in this block. It must be a saving of at least £100 a year.
Why can't consumers have a meter installed on request? Why does the whole population have to be subjected to fluoridation just because some people can't be bothered to brush their teeth?
I'm Councillor Paul Klein. I'm the Executive Member for Education on Liverpool City Council. I have a particular interest in fluoridation because I was my party's spokesperson on our Health Protection Subcommittee in 1993-94 when we were consulted by Liverpool Health Authority, and I felt it was my duty to investigate the ins and outs of this strategy. I had a completely open mind at the time, and the more I investigated, the more horrified I became that we were actually being asked to consider this, because I don't think it does what is claimed, and I don't think it's safe.
And finally, we'll be looking at water quality. Are the water companies maintaining adequate standards? Watch out for details of the special Tenant Spin Water Show to be broadcast soon. And if you'd like to contribute to the show, you can contact us via our website at www.tenantspin.org.
That was really impressive. Which it leads us into a discussion about Tenant Spin and the year that we just saw there in very, very brief extracts, which told us an awful lot. If the people didn't know about Tenant Spin, I think we've got a very good idea from that. The panellists, I should say, the people here, Alan, who you just saw on the, Alan Dunn, who's the lead artist from on Tenant Spin, in fact. John McGurk, who's also from Tenant Spin, and Brian Cronin, who's from Arena Housing. And I suppose I'd like to kick it off, and then later on we can have some questions from the floor about if each of the people here could say what's gone particularly well in this last year for Tenant Spin, and has there anything that's gone wrong that maybe we've learned from? Do you want to start off, Alan?
I'll start. I think just to contextualise the film that you just saw. I'm going to presume that people know a wee bit about Tenant Spin, and I won't go into the history. We're going through a period of the project where there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work, been co-opting Arena Housing, building a major new studio to Sefton Park, really focused on the project. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of meetings and a lot of financial negotiations. And while that was taking place, we felt it was really important just to blitz content, engage people, stimulate people, contract artists, commission lots of artists. In a sense, try and use the city as a playground, so develop a lot of links with theatres, museums, some interesting agencies like Philosophy and Pubs that are out there, and just treat it like a garden and just try to develop tenants as tenants of Liverpool, not just tenants of Sefton Park. I think that was truly successful. For me, just looking at that film, I think another thing we did quite well in the past year was start to engage young people a wee bit, which was a a lot of the tenants have been pushing fact and the, you know, to move tenants been away from this identity as of being retired people only. And I think the project with the skateboarding community opened a lot of people's eyes on both sides of the coin. And the project with Lipa was quite interesting in that their definition of community art is maybe slightly different from facts and tenant spins. It's quite nice to see this, the Chinese dragon, which is quite a traditional community art approach. So I think we blitz the content, we stimulate a lot of artists, and I think we continue this kind of journey, which was quite visual with tenant spin. All the time archiving, obviously, so it stays a record. And the behind the scenes things that were happening with Arena, which Brian can talk about in a minute. I think that was that's why professionals are involved in those projects, to create the structure to keep the project running. So for me, that was quite successful.
What was perhaps not quite as successful? Or was it all successful?
No, it wasn't. No, I think there's too many areas of weakness for tenants. But a lot of people want to work with tenants. We get a hell of a lot of approaches, which means that some of the relationships are very short, very short term. Some that you collaborate just for maybe only 2 hours or a week through necessity. And I think we've found there's been problems where people have come in and we've not quite been able to commit to, the time, the resources, the energy. People get ill, people are pulled away, and I think a few of the agencies we've worked with would like to work longer with us. The other problem, which I think maybe a few people in this room will share, is just the technical side. TenantSpin is a webcasting project, and up till now the lack of broadband in a lot of the houses, and people really struggle to actually watch TenantSpin, which may seem farcical given it's quite an exciting, fun project, but we've really struggled to talk to BT and other agencies, and we're working on it with Arena, to actually make it pleasurable for somebody to sit at home and watch. I think what we've been doing for 6 years, we've been questioning this notion of what's an audience. Is it just somebody that sits at home and watches and receives information? Or is it actually somebody that actually produces and gets out there and makes it for the viewers and so on? So I think those kind of the technical issues, and also how does TenantSpin work with other agencies without becoming a big agency like Fact? We're a small part of Fact. And I think part of today, hopefully people go away from today knowing that, the philosophy and pubs collaboration, we talked about Sadness, that was just 2 hours, sort of collaboration, maybe 3 hours. Chris Watson's 3 months, Foreign Investment was 6 months, maybe it was just different levels of collaboration.
Can I just ask, John, what's been really good about it for you?
Well, to me, as you can see from the show, it's the diversity of the subjects we cover, Like me, I'm an ordinary run-of-the-mill fella. I like to go in there, TenantSpin on an invitation. And like I think a lot of people, we all have theories on subjects. We're not able to expand them or talk about them properly. And this gives you that opportunity. And as I said, the diversity of the subjects, like you can basically categorise them. They're serious, political, topical, light-hearted. And it's been a revelation to me. I've told the people I work with, I always liken these situations to sitting in a pub with your mates, and a topic comes up, and over a pint, it's amazing how many views come across, and you're with people that you've never known before, had a view on a subject, and they come across with sensible, and it surprises you. The same thing happens, you're given a chance to air your views, and at a certain age, you've grown up through life, you've seen things. I've travelled a lot, I was in the Merchant Navy, travelled all over Britain, so a lot of the subjects has come up. It kills the little thoughts in your mind where you came into contact with these things, and you're able to have a few words on them, which is good. Otherwise, just stay inside you. And
what was your sort of personal highlight? I mean, just one thing that you think sort of typified it for you, or an event? Or?
It's hard to. They've all been so good that it's hard, I suppose. If I had to pick one, the interesting one was the one we did in the flat. With the string quartets. I mean, I've never played the spoons with a string quartet. And by the way, I must make this point, those spoons were out of tune because that morning I caught my grandchildren eating cornflakes with them, that's it. But that was it.
It was actually a quintet.
No, exactly. And the other point I'd like to make about that is, I very nearly put that blue striped shirt on today. I wouldn't like people to get the impression when I come on shirts. I've got 3 actually. But
it's for continuity.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a very interesting show. But it would be hard to dissect them, because I don't know if it involved. This was last year. We did one on the paranormal. Maybe just previous last year, and a pet subject. You know, I love ghosts, and you know, I've never met one. I'd love to. Spirits made it out of a bottle, but I'd love to see one in the flesh. So, you know, I think all the people involved with us, I think we'd all agree, all my compatriots, they're all in it. There have been some really very, very interesting shows. And I say the main thing is, I class myself as a man in the streets. I take Alan as the technical side and the know-how side, and back with other people. And it gives you the chance to talk about things. Conversation, like, you don't get many opportunities. I say you can't sit in a pub, but generally speaking, you know many areas where you can sit down with people now and tell you in conversation. You can with tenant spin, and you can
and have it filmed.
And yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay, can I just ask Brian about arenas involved? Some people might not know how does a housing association get involved in this? What's its contribution?
We got involved because the hat told us we had to, but we got lots of money. No, I mean, it's fair as well to mention as well that this is a project actually started by the hat, and we sort of adopted it as the tower box came over to us. I suppose how we got involved in this and how we've got involved in quite a few arts-based projects over the past 2 or 3 years is that as an organisation that's desperately keen to improve itself in terms of the regeneration of some of the areas and some of the communities in which we work, one of the bulkheads that we're banging our head up against was about communication. Quite often you have organisations who desperately want to do good things, and you've got communities who want good things done and want to work with organisations to get good things done, but there seems to be a problem in communication. And what we've discovered most probably in the last 2 or 3 years, and particularly over the last year, and you can see from that video, is that there are various new and different ways and more exciting ways of engaging people and getting people to be more self-confident about expressing their opinions and about interfacing not only with the landlord but with everybody. And that's a much richer environment for everyone, and actually makes our job much, much easier, as well as offering quite often some subtle diversion for people. And we've put a lot of investment, particularly this last year, in projects like tenant spin. You're going to talk to the guys from Seven Waves later, or Arena Radio, as I like to call it. No, I'm just trying to call you. I can do that because I'm out of handbag range. See what I mean? And I think what we've found is investment in these projects is paying massive dividends, way above the investment they're putting in pound note terms, in the way in which we are currently interfacing with residents in the wider community, but also we've got lots of ideas about how we'd like to expand it and take it right the way through into all our areas of work, because it has proved to be a really, really rich area for us.
Does that mean you're in it for the long term?
Yeah, I mean, just alone this year, our investment this year in arts-based projects is and I can say this because I'm an accountant, it's just gone over 1.6 million. So we are, I mean, what we see our role is, and I think that we're very keen on it, our role is one of a facilitator. We can put in place infrastructure, and we can do some revenue funding and things, but what our interest is in is working with organisations like FACT and Tenant Spin and with Seven Waves and people like that, the people who really make things happen. So we know what our role is in this, and we're very comfortable with that. And what we're trying to develop now is most probably a 5 to 10 year strategy. And most probably you're asking people before about what really didn't go that well this year. And I suppose, this is my fault, is that whilst we started the year off with lots of aspirations about what we wanted to do in the future, we've not really solidified them into plans. I mean, we've stumped up quite a bit of cash, and we've put in a lot of groundwork in terms of say, for instance, Seven Waves and Tenant Spin, in terms of the work we've done around the hat blocks. But in terms of actually having a concrete plan and a concrete revenue funded plan for those past there, we've talked about it, but there's a lot of commitment on both sides to have it done, but I think we really need to sit down and give people the long-term commitment, because I think the long-term commitment will fundamentally shape differently what people do and give people a longer view.
Does that mean you're going to reach an agreement on this soon?
Yeah. That's it.
Sounds a bit like Rio Ferdinand sang for the United States. I don't actually come. Because I think one of the problems for community groups is getting sustainable projects, and I think that's an area I'd like to move on to. But Are there any questions from people in the audience at this point? So wishes want to raise. Anybody brave enough to ask? Yes?
Whilst we're on the subject of funding, is Arena going to stay committed to tenant spin and its other projects, obviously, that you've got in hand at the moment? Because quite often what happens, people start to say, yes, we'll do this, that and the other, and then maybe after 5 years they pull out. Are we going to be able to rely on Arena, as we have in fact with HAT, to sustain that monetary funding coming through?
Sorry to put you on it.
Never mentioned it in accounts. Yeah, I mean, my reticence about what didn't go well this year is really about formally sitting down with people and giving them a hard plan. I mean, I know we've done it to an extent with 7 Waves. We've got a business plan for 7 Waves. But I think really we have talked about having a business plan for, and it sounds very grand, but really it's just about sort of what is, from Arena's point of view, is a formal commitment over a period of years. What we expect out of that. But actually, the reason we've most probably not got down to that is that our what we'd like to see tenant spin grow into is something much larger. Exactly. And we'd like to take it out to the whole of what we euphemistically call Arena land, but also into the wider community. So the commitment's real and the commitment's long term.
But can I follow that up with Alan and ask what he thinks how tenant spin could develop in the future? Let's assume the money's there, big assumption. What sort of things do you think it could move on to? And are there lessons for other groups in this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to follow Gene's point, I think part of the delay is that, tenant spin's been quite innovative in some forms. We've tried not base ourselves on another project in Britain because it's not really what we base on. So when it comes to negotiating between a landlord, an arts agency, a group of tenants, and a project that's been going for 6 years that we want to continue for 10 years, we've been working very hard to work out what is the best, financially, ethically, morally, culturally, what is the best model for tenant spin. And that boils down to practicalities, like who owns the equipment? Is it better that tenants own the equipment or share it with Arena? Who owns the building? Where does FAT come in? What do we offer? And we spent a lot of time actually clarifying that, and I'm a firm believer that to make tenant spin work, we keep it small. That's where some of the interesting conversations with Arena are coming in. And I quite like naming Vera, John, Jean, and Brenda, they're known tenants. So I think if we can make it work in a very small, localised area like Sefton Park, but then have the resources to make it work also, for example, the way that Liso's working, a very tight, close-knit community, and then actually look to other agencies to link those communities. So this notion of like little satellites that are actually very, very localised, personalised, and morally correct, and it's not faceless and anonymous. And I think that's the model we have to look at, because if you stop, and I think Arena, they seem to be quite good at this, of putting faces to names and knowing the tenants as the hardware. I think it's got to work on that really genuine. If it's not genuine, you won't get people turning up. And we've made mistakes with called meetings and events and people haven't turned up. I think we have to learn from that. But if we can make it work at Sefton Park, and by work, I mean we divide it 50-50 between cultural content and social housing content. And we'd love to see tenant elections, a true kind of e-democracy. This government always talking about e-democracy and we're going to do this, this, this. I think and part of the problem is scale. To do it on a national level is really difficult. I think we've got a real chance with tenant spin to make it work on a very small scale with 300 tenants. And if we can bring the cultural side to that, so and there's people in this room that maybe were quite isolated and hadn't left their flat but got involved because played the spoons or did engaged in cultural activity and then became politicised. I think that's our message to landlords and other agencies, that people can become active and engaged through the cultural sector. So my hope is actually that it keeps it quite small. I hope that technically what we're going to do is get it on TVs, because we're really fed up with kind of computers not working and lack of broadband. So we're actually pilot and hopefully work with ICDs at the university to try and find a way of merging people's culture, which is maybe TV, with, in a sense, our culture, which is webcasting. And we've been trying to merge this for 6 years. It's not quite, audience is still a big issue for us. So I'm hoping we can resolve the kind of delivery platform, keep the cultural content, and then explore the housing.
Can I ask John, from a tenant's point of view, how would you like to see tenant spin develop? And can I ask you as well, obviously you've been dependent for the technology through to a certain extent on the people coming in with us. Have you been developing the skills to actually be able to take over some of that role yourselves, or all of that role yourselves?
Well, we have been to a certain degree, but without being thoroughly accomplished, like, again, it's just speaking for himself as a little bit. I knew nothing about computers, technical side of this business at all until I came into it. I found it very, very interesting. We became involved, and I think we held our own without becoming like thoroughly professional. We made our mistakes, that's part of it. As Alan said before, we had our glitches, and that was mainly us putting the wrong plug into the wrong socket sort of thing, and everybody wanted to sound it didn't come across well. But we did learn, I'm fairly proficient, and hopefully now with this new sensor, this new community sensor being built, we'll become more proficient and take more part in it, you know. Because another good point Alan made is, you don't want a huge organisation. A focal point to start from with a small crew and reaching a big audience, that's the aim, and that's what you need. It's, of course, we only broadcast through the computer system. If we had a television that would possibly make a bigger impact, but possibly that would come, and it's all there in the future, it's all there to be gone for. And I've been with them 2 years, Bernard, and what I've seen, it's just been an ongoing thing, and it has spread out. To see those shows on there, I never realised we did that many in a year. So it is there, and the topics are there. They're all around you. Everywhere you go, you can. Just this morning, I met 2 people. I won't involve it, and they gave me a message for them. They'd like to be involved, and it's a very, very topical issue. A really interesting topic, and I'm going to investigate it. They are there, and I can see a good few years ahead for tennis.
What about its effects on individuals? Have you noticed people sort of developing through the project?
Oh yes. Well, we have cut our input in the crews that other people still, but I mainly do this because, as you say, I can gap. That's the only thing that you can do. Put me and say anything, so we know spot him. But the rest of the crew carried on the technical side, camera work, sound systems, lighting. It's on it. The more you do it, the more you. With me, so I take this, and again, I always go with me because it's a personal gift. I'm 74, and I would say to sit down and say, if I'd have been 30 now, I'd have really thrown myself into this. I'd have really got pushed for it, you know, and made it possibly try to make it a career. But I say to the time now, it's interesting to me. It's kept me going, you know, for the last couple of years. And it wasn't like I've been sitting in the pub now, just a little drop of flat, glass looking at the balls. So it is, no, it is, and the rest of our crew are very accomplished in what they do. Camera work, sound, lighting.
Thank you. Are there any other points anybody would like to make? Yes?
Right. Tenant Spin has done
Rachel and Matt are from a firm called Active Ingredients that they've set up, and they've done various digital arts programs in Nottingham, including Moon Radio and the latest one is Make TV, but I'll leave them to talk more about it and to demonstrate what they're doing. Over to you.
Hi. I'm going to start off with just talking a little bit about the background of where we come from and what we've been up to in the last 5 years of working with web streaming. And myself and Matt, we're part of a company called Active Ingredients. We're based in Nottingham, and we work with digital art. So we make artwork that involves technology. We also facilitate projects, work with other artists, and work commercially as well. So we can cross over a lot of different sectors. This is our website, just generally about our company. We started working with web streaming in the year 2000 and set up a project called Moon Radio Web TV. This partly came from an interest in our own work of using web streaming, using video on the internet, and seeing where we can push it in terms of interactivity, as coming from a background performing and making visual art, we were very interested in seeing it as a whole new tool. So instead of performing in the theatre, seeing performing online on the internet with the potential for the interaction with the audience as a whole new way of working. So we started off working with it within our own artwork and worked on a very large project called Clinical Garden that toured around the UK. It went to Corner House in Manchester, went to Magna in Rotherham, where we actually used streaming media as a way of getting audiences all over the world to be able to see what was happening in the exhibition right there. So we set up, it was a big installation, so we were just exploring basically the technology, but how it could then be used to increase audiences and to create a kind of another view on an environment. This is actually Chemical Garden. I won't go into too much detail about it because I haven't got a huge amount of time, but it was an installation that looked at the environment and regeneration, and it had robots roaming around in it and webcams that were streaming live from space. So as people were walking around, you could see them, you could send a message and things. So we've been working quite a lot in our own work on what web streaming is and what we can do with it. And our real interest is in the live element, actually being able to have a live audience anywhere in the world and seeing how you can interact with them and what you can do, or potentially how that can extend your ideas and your ability to communicate. So we set up Moon Radio Web TV, which some of you may have heard of. We have been and done demonstrations before. This has involved curating, basically, a website where artists can come, predominantly artists and filmmakers, can come and make work, show their films. We've done various types of events. We've tried lots of different ways to create the experience of a kind of live web TV channel. We've tried to do weekend events based on the kind of weekend themes that Channel 4 used to do. We've tried commissioning whole seasons of artwork and using it in lots of different ways. Actually here, I'll just show you, this was a live webcast from London where we did a live cookery show where you could interact through a chat room. You could actually choose different soundtracks whilst you were viewing it. You could talk to the dinner guests as well as the people who were making the food. And it was just trying to sort of take performance and kind of artwork and broadcast to another dimension and see how much an audience can participate and how much you can open up the experience of taking part in artwork as an audience member and as a dinner guest, because the dinner guests became performers. So if I just quickly go to the Moon Radio site, so Moon Radio is still existing, and but it's a bit on hold at the moment because we're now looking towards creating a new project that's using web streaming and using live web streaming, but is opening this up to the audience. One of the things we found was that we didn't have the resources to carry on creating a web TV channel. We're not the BBC, we're a small arts organisation, we get funded project by project. And we couldn't keep up the momentum of the kind of level of work that we wanted to do, and also the level of support to our audience and to the producers that we were working with, whether they were artists, filmmakers, or people who were just interested in broadcasting. So we've got to a point where we've got a very large archive of broadcasts that we've done with all different types of producers. But we wanted to hand it over to the people who were interested and to help support people build their skills and learn more about it and develop their ideas of what to do with the interactivity, with the medium. So if you see it as kind of like theatre, well, this is a broadcast that we did, I've got the sound on it, with an artist in London that was trying out some of our new work, our new web streaming. I'll take it back just because the sound was like it. And so we've started work on something that we're calling Make TV, which is basically an attempt to merge producers and audiences together. So that you can go to the site,
what happens in the middle? I know about computers and watching video on the internet, but what is the stuff that happens in the middle? And because it's live, there are only kind of really two ways that they had, two options to do it. You can either do it like the TV companies do it, and hire yourself a satellite and get a big truck along with satellite dishes on it and stuff like that, which is mostly impractical for most of us and really not kind of cost effective. Or you can use the internet. And that's your only option to do this stuff in a kind of cost effective way. And they kind of basically asked us, is this possible, can we do it? We said, yeah, we're pretty sure you can do this if you need to. One question though that you have for them when they say kind of, can we do this over the internet is, firstly, have you got an internet connection we can use? People can sometimes forget this one, but we need a really great connection to get out there and get this stuff where we need it to be. So from our point of view, we first of all have to think about the connection, and then secondly, you've got to think about a platform, the technologies which you're going to use, which will deliver your content. And you've got three big choices pretty much. You've got QuickTime, Windows Media, and Reel. I know the tenant spin stuff is done using Reel and the Super Channel platform. They all have their pros and cons. They're all great technologies. The one we happened to use was QuickTime. It's got a lot of good things going for it. Like it's incredibly easy and fast to set up. All the stuff that you need is just a free download away. You just get it, install it, and you're off. It's open standards. It uses MPEG technology, the same stuff that's on your DVD. And it's incredibly scalable quality from all the way down to delivering content to a mobile phone up to satellite TV broadcasts. So if you look at the QuickTime example that we used, we'll go through each of those bits that you need. You've got to somehow broadcast your video, and that requires a piece of software, normally called a broadcast kind of program or something like that. It's the same for Reel and Windows Media. And this is something which takes your live video stream from your computer, encodes it on the fly to make it small enough to actually deliver it across the internet, and then sends it where it needs to go, which would normally be some kind of big chunky server that you might have somewhere. So we happen to have not one of these things, but something kind of similar, which was where our streaming server platform was. And it's just actually called that streaming server. Now, the one up there doesn't need to be that. It can in fact be your laptop. In fact, for later on, we've got all this software installed on just a simple laptop. You can actually turn your laptop computer into both a broadcast unit and a streaming server. You don't need to have things that look like that up there. And then the last bit of the puzzle is the playback. So in this instance, it would be the QuickTime player, which we're kind of mostly familiar with. The streaming server is incredibly important to doing kind of like high bandwidth kind of stuff on the internet, because it's the thing which deals with all the connections. If we've got 50 people connecting at one time, it's the thing which dishes out the bandwidth and makes sure that things don't fall over and that type of stuff. And another reason for that is that it's basically a server will be out there on the internet externally. For instance, we have problems kind of streaming from inside safe buildings like this because we're not actually on the internet, we're behind firewalls and routers and all that kind of stuff. So it's an important kind of part of the jigsaw. So what I want to do now is actually show you kind of how easy this pretty much simply is. Once you're all set up and ready to go, this is a very simple, straightforward process. We're basically going to do now what we did when we did Berlin. So let me just skip out of this. So what we've got here is a camera, and here's the QuickTime broadcaster software. Pull that over, okay? So you can hardly see us, but we're here. This is live, that's coming on. And once we've got that software running there, we do a couple of things. We need to tell it how to encode the stuff, how big. Do we want some settings for audio and video? So we've got a couple of things we can change there for video, and then network. What's the server we're going to use? Now, like I said before, the server is on this machine, so it's basically going to send it to itself. But it is going to act like a full-blown streaming server on the internet. And then once you kind of set up with that, it's fairly simple, and basically took me about 10 minutes to install everything from scratch yesterday after downloading it from the internet. It took honestly about 10 minutes to get ready to go. You hit broadcast, and it does some stuff, and it says broadcasting. This is basically broadcasting. and you all have your laptops and stuff, you can connect to this. So I'm going to give that a try now on this machine over here, just to prove that, you know, kind of this works. And if you imagine that kind of we're in Berlin over there, and London here, that's okay. So if we switch this machine. Okay, so here we've got a separate laptop, we have a QuickTime Play. And I'm going to give this got the URL in for the machine and then the QuickTime streaming server. Click OK, and boom, there it is. And like I said, any of you can connect to this right now. This is kind of happening live. Okay, so it is pretty much a very simple process once you kind of set up. And this stuff is kind of getting better and better at doing this. And it used to be an incredible kind of nightmare. You needed a very high-end technology to do it. And now, well, basically, you can do this on your own laptop computers with a kind of download off the internet in your way.
Sorry, can I just ask, because I don't want you to move on before I've understood that. I might be a bit thick by asking this. Do you not have to upload that onto a website? When you say I could sit on my laptop, I don't know how I would go in to find that unless it's been sent to my computer. Can you explain that?
The broadcaster software is what deals with that. It is basically loading continuously and basically kind of uploading that stuff to
where?
the server.
Right.
Which you would have on the internet somewhere. You know, you kind of need to install some kind of server software somewhere. Because we're doing this internally,
yes,
and I have this software running on here, it's acting as if this is somewhere else on the internet, but it is sending, the broadcaster software is sending it to a streaming server, which is then dealing with all the requests that come in from out on the internet or in here. Now, where you could use this without having another server and do it in this example from your own laptop, is if you're in kind of a lab or a school or a kind of organization or whatever, and you're all on the same internal network. Like I said, anybody in this room right now, this building, can connect to that stream right now. Okay. So it's the broadcaster software which deals with uploading this stuff to the right place.
right. So are you saying it uploads direct to my computer, or I need to be given an address or somewhere to go to find it? That's what I don't understand.
The bit in the middle, the bit that you need to get set up, and we had to do for this because we go back to the Berlin example, what you would not have is we would not go there with that machine there, which was also encoding this stuff, and have everybody from London and everywhere trying to connect to this machine over one kind of internet connection. So when you're dealing with high bandwidth stuff and you want reliability and robustness, what you need is a kind of big chunky server out there on the internet, and you know there are people who will get that for you, or get your own kind of box with its own IP address, that type of thing, and install the software on that thing. It is possible to do it kind of on your own. You could basically do it on a broadband connection at home. It would be possible to do it. So download the stuff and have a look at it, and it's, you know, kind of it does work and it's possible to do.
Thank you.
But there are scales of it, you know, on a LAN internally, no problem, we can just do it. We don't need anything special outside on the internet, we can do it all in here. Good question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, does that mean if you're doing this, that you're trying to show someone this, you just give them a web link to look at and they can see it?
Yeah. I typed in the address, but what you'd do was probably build a little web page which would have that link built into it, and it would go off, so you wouldn't have to give people like numbers to type in to get to the new screen. You could build a very simple little web page which would launch that piece of video for them. So you just go to this web page, type it in, off they go, and they can start to watch. And we've actually done this on a couple of times in sort of different organization stuff where it's been internal. It's really good for like kind of, you know, companies use it to broadcast, you know, meetings and God knows what to each other. But once you set up that stuff, like I said, it's basically push a button and you're off. So that's the kind of getting that bit going. Can we come back to this one? Okay, so we are still broadcasting away, and when we're done, we hit the stop button. That's gone. Just to show as well, we had this is what was doing the kind of heavy lifting behind the scenes, the streaming server, which again you can just download and install. Okay, and that's it. And it even tells you what's going on and how many people connected and how it's going on and that sort of stuff. So that was all coming from this machine here. Okay. What I want to talk about very quickly to wrap this up is that's kind of what we're able to do now. But what the next big things that are coming in video. And it's kind of we're at this juncture right now, there's some kind of exciting stuff about to happen. Throughout the day, kind of what I've picked up on is that the quality isn't there yet. You know what I mean? We go out and we make great stuff with DV cameras, which gives incredible, like almost broadcast, or near close to sort of good enough to be on the TV. Yet when we stream it, it doesn't look great. And in terms of video, the next big thing that's coming, which is going to happen over the next couple of years, is HD, high definition. But there's a technology which comes with high definition television, film, and all that kind of stuff, which is this thing called H.264 compression. This is a brand new kind of technology which is going to kind of change and fix that whole problem of poor quality video over the internet and bring it up to a level where it can challenge what you see on television. To put it simply, if that's what we can do now with the current technology which we've been using recently, with this new technology that's coming by, we're going to be able to do that. Basically 3 times the resolution in the same file sizes and the same bandwidth, we're going to be able to get that kind of quality. Okay, so things are about to kind of dramatically change, and this does change a lot of things because it does put broadcast internet technologies on a level playing field, whereas internet stuff's always been way down. You know, it doesn't come close to anything we can do with our DVD players, that kind of stuff. To run through some points about this. Okay. First thing, we've got this H.264 technology, which gives us great resolution, small file sizes, wonderful color, none of the kind of compression problems we've had with other formats, even like DVD. Pretty much 3 times better than what you currently get with the DVD in terms of quality. So for the same file size that you get now, you're going to be able to get something 3 times bigger, 3 times the resolution, 3 times the quality. And that's probably being conservative with. Like I said, lower file size, this is the important point. That, okay, we've always been able to do a higher quality stuff, but it's always been the expense of file size and file transfer. And people don't want to wait for hours for this kind of stuff. They'd rather have the smaller stuff. It's incredible scalable. This works from tiny little mobile phones, which need very small file sizes, and say even people on dial-up modems, all the way up to broadcast television. They are using the same technology. So the technology which Sky have recently announced they're using this technology to broadcast HD content down their digital TV platforms. We get to use the same technology to do our live internet streaming and other types of stuff. So it scales all the way down from the very lowest to the very highest, and we all get to use the same stuff. And it being an MPEG format, there's the same people who created the DVD format. It's going to be everywhere. So it's going to make your stream video look better. It's going to make your DVDs look better. It's going to make everything look better over the next few years. So before we go any further, we should probably take a look at some. And the example I have is from the BBC. It's a kind of archive showreel of some footage